So this is your RD7200. So it's got that brand new locator smell to it. It comes with it. But there is a, this is the soft case. We didn't even talk about a hard case, but the hard case is,
this is perfect.
It's much bigger and bulkier. If you have it in the back of the truck, get the hard case to protect it in case you're throwing shovels and stuff in the back. I mean, this can ride in the back of the truck, but don't throw anything on top of it and don't leave it out there when it's raining, because this is like ShamWow fabric. It soaks up the water really fast. So there is a shoulder strap that I normally always have on here because it makes it easier also to carry. And then inside the bag, we have the manual in case you want to do some heavy reading. So you got the full manual, accessory kits, and then we put in a quick start guide. So each one of these is this is the different ways to use it. So if you're hooking up direct, step 1 through 11, this is what you do. If you're using the ring clamp, which you didn't get the ring clamp, but that's the induction clamp that you can put around a cable or a pipe instead of using a ground rod, this is the steps. And then if you're inducing a signal, that means you can put the transmitter, turn the transmitter on without anything plugged into it and just set it over the top of the utility. Okay. And that will induce a signal into it, and you'll be able to pick it up with the receiver. And then we have power mode also on here, which is a passive locate frequency, not using the transmitter at all, just looking for live power and going off the live power to use it. So underneath you have a storage compartment with your cables, which I'll go ahead and pull out. These are 20 feet long, so they're plenty long enough for everything that you'll probably be doing. Okay. If you need to get the ground rod out further away, they give you a extra 30 feet spool, and this just plugs in the side of it here. Where is it? Plugs into the back of the ground right here. Okay. So you can actually use it as a secondary. It's always better to have more ground. It will allow your signal to travel better, complete the circuit better. But ground rod is underneath here. This is running off of 8 D-cell batteries. If you wanted to, you can get the rechargeable pack, and this will just come right out by pushing in on the hinge. Put the rechargeable in. Rechargeable lithium ion lasts a lot longer than the alkaline pack, but this one will get you probably 10, 12 hours or so. It all really depends on how much you turn up the transmitter.
Batteries on here or here?
2 D-cells right in here.
Oh, there is.
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead and open that. Each one of these compartments also has a USB port inside of it. That's for updating software, checking calibration. Okay. If there's a significant update, we'll email you, let you know. Otherwise, I won't even worry about it. You know, if it's not broken, don't fix it, you know. When you start a locate, basically you're just sending a electrical pulse down the line, alternating current. You're changing that DC, the battery power into AC. And when you alternate current down a line, it becomes magnetic, and that's kind of what you're locating is a magnetic field. Okay. And so you got to be able to complete a circuit in order for it to work. So we have tracer wire on the meter here. You can think of this black and this red as a positive and negative, but if you switch them around or if you're colorblind, it really doesn't matter as long as you're completing a circuit. Okay. And so you get the ground out here away. So I'll just put it right here, this nice dry ground. We need some rain, and when it's dry like this, or if you're in sandy soil, it's going to inhibit the continuity. Okay. And so you're not going to be able to complete a circuit as easy. That's the times that you're going to end up turning up your transmitter, or just let the transmitter do its thing. It's actually going to throw out more voltage, and I'll show you here on the screen. So on the screen of the transmitter, there is a voltometer. So when you get hooked up, it's going to come right back onto whatever you had it on last. So if you're used to using the same frequency all the time, or the same output setting all the time, all you got to do is hook up, turn it on, and away you go. Okay. So right now we have on the screen our battery life. This is our output level. Right now we're using 1 bar of output. We can go ahead and turn that up or down. So we can increase the output to 3 bars, 4 bars. Really depends on how far you want to go and what your reaction of this voltometer is. So I'm just going to leave it on 1 bar right now, because the first thing we're looking at is the milliamp reading, and the milliamp should go up and the voltage should go down. If I had a bad hookup, or if that tracer wire is bad, I'll just unplug it here.
It went to
0, and the voltage went up. So the voltage is trying to kick the current in the butt and say, get down that line. Okay. And so you're going to see that reverse hopefully happen when you get hooked up and you got good continuity. You see the milliamps go up, voltage go down, you know you got a good hookup. So 512 is your frequency. That's the second thing you choose, is what frequency do you want to use. 512, 833, 65. 512 is your lowest because it's in hertz, so that's a half of a kilohertz. And then we have 8 kilohertz, and we have 33, and we have 65, and it just keeps going up and up and up. So 200 kilohertz is your highest. The reason for the different frequencies is the less continuity or the more resistance that's on the line, the higher the frequency you're going to need. So just think high frequency for high resistant times, low frequency for low resistance. So if it's been raining for a while, 512 is going to work great, especially if this tracer wire is grounded on the far end. But if this tracer wire was broke halfway down the yard here, you're going to have a hard time completing a circuit. 512 is not going to work. That's when you go up to 8 kilohertz or 33. Okay. I'm just going to go to 512 to start off here. We got milliamps and we're set to go. So on the receiver screen, you have the same thing. You have the battery life right there. And then you have your frequencies down on the bottom left-hand corner, just like that one. And the first thing you want to do is just match up your frequency. So the F key changes the frequency. And we were already on 512, but I'm just going to go through them here so you can see them. But okay. There's 512, there's 8 kilohertz, goes in the same order. Okay. 33, 65, 83, 131, 200. I'm going to go back to 512. Okay. Got that matched up. And then we'll get away from our hookup here since we have our cables and everything all right there, and it's just going to be confusing for the locator if you start there. So you get out here a little ways, you kind of have an idea which way the line's supposed to go. So you want this blade going intersecting or going perpendicular to wherever you think it's going. If you end up having the blade go the same direction, it's not going to pick anything up. For sure. So I'm basically assuming the magnetic field's going this way, and I'm going to want to chop it in half with the blade of the receiver. I just turned up my sensitivity a little bit, and I'll let you go at it here. Right now you're in a peak null response, which means you got arrows and you have numbers. The peak number is wherever the highest magnetic field or whatever you're picking up is the greatest.
So when it hits that's
it, yeah. On. And then you got the arrows to help collide with that.
Me the depth.
So if the arrows and the numbers are in the exact same spot, yeah, you're going to have a good locate, and then the depth reading on the bottom right hand corner is taking it from the bottom of the machine. So just put it against the ground to give you the most accurate depth reading.
Gotcha.
Pretty simple.
Okay.
So 2 foot, and then if you want to check the depth reading to see if it's accurate or not, right here on the bar graph, of just halfway up the bar graph, is about 1 foot high. So if you go against the ground and go to your 2 foot there, and I usually just stick my finger right there, and then I pull up the receiver to my finger, and it should go to 3 foot, right?
Yep.
Pretty close. It's kind of hard to hold it still when you're.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it adds just like a tape measure,
okay,
you know, the correct amount, then you know it's a good magnetic field. You get a good measurement.
Okay.
And then you have your milliamps on the left, bottom left. So there's your depth. This is the amount of milliamps coming from your transmitter. If you recall, we were throwing out 10 milliamps from the transmitter. This should be pretty close to whatever the transmitter is pushing out, especially we're on an isolated line right now. So we're going to lose some right off the bat because it's returning back to the ground right immediately. But as you continue here, you're going to see those milliamps slowly degrade. But okay, we're picking up 6.5, almost 7 of the 10. That's a good indication we're on the right line.
Okay.
If you had more than one signal in the front yard here, whichever one reads higher in milliamps is probably the one that you want to be painting out. The compass is telling you the orientation of the magnetic field, so we can go ahead and keep following this out. But if the pipe starts to turn on you, the magnetic field is also going to turn, and it's going to move the compass. So
gotcha. So
you just kind of keep the handle always the same direction as the compass. No shit. If you notice the compass is turning, then just turn the receiver with it. But yeah, it's kind of headed at an angle across the street, isn't it? So it's starting to turn here a little bit, so it's actually just turn the receiver. You notice if you don't have the receiver in line with the compass, your depth reading disappears.
Oh, gotcha.
They do that on purpose because it's not going to calculate the depth correctly if you don't have it perfectly perpendicular to the line you're locating. So 2'4", we're still running at the same depth, you're still running at the same current. That's all good indication that you're still on the same line.
So if I were to throw it into power mode right now, I would be able to pull power and cable.
Off of that, yep. That's going to pick up anything with live power on it. So we have a service coming right through here, but I'm able to locate it by just going to power mode. So I'm turning the sensitivity up or down with the up-down arrows here. So if you increase the sensitivity, it's like increasing the sensitivity on a CB radio. You start picking up a lot more signal, but you might start picking up other people's conversations or other signals you don't want as I'm increasing it there. So if you hit 99.9 on the screen, that means your sensitivity is set too high. just hit the down arrow once and it will self-adjust. After power mode, you have a radio mode that will do the same as power, but it's looking for anything with a radio signal on it. So like the old time analog cable TV would have radio signal on it. You're able to locate just using that mode. Those two modes are good modes just to kind of sweep an area to see if there's something down there that you not aware of.
Okay.
Maybe a private utility line of some sort.
Okay.
And then CPS mode stands for Cathodic Protection System mode. That's on like large transmission gas lines. It's a cathodic protection they put onto the pipe to help it from corroding. You're able to utilize that as your locate signal,
Okay.
but you won't be doing much of that,
No.
especially in a neighborhood. So this is
power does not give depth.
it will, but it won't give it if it thinks it's confused. So right now you're right next to all the PEDs and everything, and it's going to not give you anything.
Okay.
But once you get out here just a little bit, you should be able to get it. And on power mode, you're not getting an arrow if you haven't noticed. So you're just looking for your peak response. So keep coming this way and right about there.
Okay.
And then if you want, this has different power filters in it. So power altogether is picking up anything that has 60 hertz on it. So it does not have to be exactly 60 hertz. It can be 120 hertz. It can be 180 hertz and so on and so on. And so it's trying to just pick up any power line that's out there. Like a three-phase power line is actually 180 hertz.
Okay.
Whereas a single phase would be 60. So if you hit the right button here when you're in power mode, it will take it to just straight 60 hertz. If you knew you were looking for just a single phase primary line, you go to 60, and then you notice you have your compass, you have your arrows, just like if you're hooking up to do a locate. But it's hard to tell. You have to kind of go through the different filters. Once you find it in power mode, it's like here's 60. If we click on it again, now we're in 180. Notice how if you come this way with the arrow pointing this way, now it's kind of finding it, but the depth reading, it's still a little bit shaky. So power mode is kind of like a safety mode. You're not using it as a precision locate mode. You want to always hook up direct. So if I had to locate this power out, I would actually hook my red lead up to the outside of the meter box right there.
Okay.
Throw a signal into the neutral side of the wire and locate it out. And then you do have the cable TV and the telephone probably bonded to the electric box as well. So if you do that, you're going to throw a signal into there unless you can isolate it and get those off of there with a screwdriver or whatever.
Okay.
And then put them back on, of course, when you're done.
For sure.
But that's power mode. If I wanted to also, I could induce a signal. So if you go back to, let's go to 8 kilohertz. And I'm just going to go up there, unplug the cables, put that in 8 kilohertz, and just set the box where I see the 3-inch conduit coming down from the power meter. And you should be able to pick it up here. So now at least you got something. So you're picking up 4 milliamps. What I did, I turned up the transmitter all the way. When you do induction mode like this, you're kind of losing a lot of your output to the open air, the ground, and we're probably trying to penetrate 3 foot into the ground before it can jump in there.
Okay.
But I'm using 8 kilohertz. We can also use a higher frequency, which may work better. Like 33 kilohertz is typically what you use when you do this.
So when we were going back, when I was blanket sweeping in here with the power, do I needed to ultimately I should have changed
power mode is passive, so that means you're not using the transmitter at all. You're just going off of the passive signal that's on there.
Okay.
So you can walk anywhere you want in this neighborhood and pick up live power.
Okay.
Without using that transmitter. Same with radio mode, but when you're using active frequencies, that means using the transmitter, that's when you're on 512, 833, 65. You're applying your own frequency, which is kind of like creating your own radio station.
Okay.
And so by doing that, you're able to isolate one line from everything else, because power mode, you're picking up who knows what. I mean, it could be private power, it could be cable TV, it could be a water line. It's just almost everything metallic is picking up some AC on it all the time. So it's kind of, that's why I'm saying it's a safety precaution, basically, not something you'd use for precision locating. So you always want to use your transmitter to get you the best signal possible.
Okay.
And then verify the current measurement. Your compass should be nice and straight. And then I don't know if you saw that peak and that null response. If you go back to 8 kilohertz here, this is when I say peak and null, that means these arrows and these numbers are using 2 different antenna configurations. And if they're on top of each other, if they're both saying it's in the same spot, that's a good confirmation you got a good locate. There's going to be times your arrow says it's over here, your numbers say it's here. your numbers are always going to be more accurate because you're using horizontal antennas, which get a lot less interference.
Which numbers are you saying?
These right there in the middle of the screen. And if I want, you can turn it down. It's wherever you're comfortable. Right now it's at, this scale goes up to 140, but you just, as you can see, I can turn it all the way up, but it's not going to do me any good. Really, once that gets up over 100, you're going to end up hitting 99.9. So whenever you hit 99.9, if I just hit it down once, you'll notice this went all the way down to 61. It takes you down to, so this is usable 50 percentile range and your signal strength in the middle.
Gotcha.
And that's normally where I like to run it, but if you want, you can run it a little higher, just as long as you're not hitting 99.9.
Okay.
So when you see those guys locating out there swinging it,
yep.
Let me turn up the volume just a little bit.
How did you do that?
I'll show you. That's a secret. You got to pay extra for that. But
I like where it's at.
They're going off the volume and not even watching the screen. Once you get used to this machine, you can just kind of hear where your highest response is.
Okay.
And there it is. And then to really hone in on it, you want to take your time and go back and forth and watch the reaction. But the menu that I went into to get to the volume is hidden underneath the on-off key. So if you hold this down, it shuts the unit down, and this will come right back on, just like the transmitter, to whatever you had it on last. But if you want to control the volume and some other things, just hit the on-off real quick. This is true with the transmitter as well. And you'll see the first thing on the menu is volume.
Okay.
And then you can go into volume by hitting the right and left arrow here. So I hit the right arrow, which is also my peak node. But I'm on volume 3, and I can get it to where I want by going up and down. Volume 2, volume 1, 0, 5. Gotcha. So I'll just leave it on 3 for now. Okay. And then I go back a notch, and I can go up on the menu to the next thing, which is info. That will show you the last date and year and revision of the calibration. Like the version is 1009 right now, but if you want, you can actually run a test. Here's the last date it was calibrated at the factory. It was April of 2023. But if I think it's acting funny and I want to run a field test, you just go to test mode. And when you go into test, it says yes. Now it's going to take about 30 seconds, but it's going to run a self-test and then come back and tell you pass or fail.
Okay.
So if it fails, then there might be something wrong. If it fails, just go to another area where you might not have transmitter signal or tailgate or something to screw it up. Run it again, and if it fails again, then call me. And we'll probably.
How often do I need to do a test on it?
Only if you think it's acting funky. Some people do it just once a month,
okay.
Just to make sure everything's all right. But
for sure.
It just it doesn't take too long. But this is counting down the 30 seconds, the bar graph on the top. So once it gets all the way to the right, it's done. It should say pass, hopefully.
Okay.
It's a brand new unit. I hope it passes. The only thing that would make it fail is the transmitter signal that we have on right now.
Perfect.
So it passed. And then once it says pass, just turn the unit off and turn it back on.
Okay.
To get it going again. And so the next thing after info is swing alert. And we have it off right now, but what swing alert does is if you're one of those that likes to swing the locator, it will vibrate the handle and tell you to knock it off.
Okay.
But that's kind of annoying, so we just turn it off. Audio is set on low. There is a high pitch audio, like if he's running his backhoe here and you couldn't hear this thing, you can go to high pitch and maybe hear it, but I usually just leave that alone as well. It will actually go, it will like chirp at you. Compass, so I'll just leave that on all the time.
Yeah, okay.
And then arrow, that should be on guidance arrows, which they were. Those are the more accurate arrows. There is a null arrow in there too that's using a single antenna. The guidance arrows is what we have it on. You just leave it there for now.
Okay.
Battery type is alkaline unless you get the lithium ions, but that will automatically change when you get the lithium ion. And then strike alert is when there's a shallow power line, it will chirp at you and just like that. Letting you know, hey, there's a shallow power line over there, be careful. It's for excavators, just to warn them. But I usually turn that off as well because it scares the crap out of you when you're locating and all of a sudden it goes off. And then frequency, to turn the frequencies on and off. Like if you didn't want all those active frequencies that are on the transmitter, you just want 512, 833 to make things simple, you can turn them off.
Okay.
And then, is this too much for you?
I think I'm getting it.
And then antenna mode, well, we'll have it on video so you can go back and watch it anytime. Antenna mode basically will turn off the antennas you don't plan on using as well. So right now we have peak mode, we have peak plus, null mode, guidance mode, and back to peak. Peak you can't get rid of really. That's the one that showing you the highest number, which is actually the best way to locate. And then peak plus is the numbers with the arrows. That's what we were just using. That's the one you're probably going to use all the time because it adds the arrows to simplify the left-right guidance. Yep. And then you have null mode, which is just the arrows, which we never turn on. It makes no sense. And then guidance mode. This is guidance mode. It looks like a nut cup. So but any guidance mode controls the sensitivity for you. Everything's automatic in this mode. So all you're doing is basically following the arrows left and right. Look for your highest number, and you can see there's a little shadow emulating where the actual cable or pipe is. So this is about as simple as it can get, because
I like that one.
The only disadvantage is it's slower than the peak mode. Once you get used to peak mode or listening to the tone, you move a lot faster. Whereas this one, I call it training wheels mode because it is pretty much that. You're just following the arrows left and right.
You can switch that by hitting this.
Yep. So now you're back to regular peak mode. There's peak plus with the arrows, peak mode with the added arrows, and then there's guidance mode.
Okay, what's the difference on peak plus to...
Peak mode has no arrows. Oh. You're just looking for the highest number.
Gotcha, okay.
And then peak plus, or the four-legged looking spider, is adding the arrows.
Gotcha, okay.
And then guidance mode, the advantage is that is doing the same thing. You're still following the arrows, but you don't have to worry about the gain control. So everything's automatic.
Gotcha. Perfect.
We can come back and do more.
Stock extra batteries, that's the only thing.
2 in here, 8 in there in the transmitter, and your battery, I think I showed you already, but the battery indicator's on the left side over here. Okay. So it's full.
If for some reason I ever lose that ground rod or anything, can I pull off like a yard flag or something?
Well, something with more surface area than that. So it will work, but that you should only do that temporarily, like if you're desperate. Okay. Because there's not a lot of surface area on those flags, and so if you want to use the ground rod that it came with, or something larger, like if you had a 3-foot or a 4-foot probe rod, that even works better because especially today it's really dry, and that ground rod they give you is just not deep enough to give you a real good continuity. Okay. We have enough for this, but if you were locating like a cast iron water line or something, it's a lot tougher to locate, tougher to get signal to travel down that, so then you want to use a better ground.
Makes sense.
And probably use a little higher frequency that will handle the resistance, like 8 kilohertz.
Okay.
A lot of people will just go to 8 kilohertz on here, 2 bars of output, and that should take care of 99% of your locates, if you want to be simple about it.
Okay, do what now? I'm sorry.
I'm on 8 kilohertz for my frequency.
Okay.
2 bars of output. And then I'll get this hooked back up to the ground rod over here.
So
and then you just verify when you're on 8 kilohertz with 2 bars of output, you should be getting 20 milliamps. And if you're getting 20 on the transmitter, you should be picking it up with the receiver.
Perfect. Cool.
And then when you wrap this up, I normally wrap these leads up separately because otherwise that 20 feet gets tangled real easy. Okay. So if you just keep them separated, like dogs and cats, they'll get along just fine. Inside the bag, this bag is actually cut out so that the leads can be plugged in all the time. And then I'll just stick these in those cubbies, those little side pockets there.
Okay, so I don't have to pull that out.
Yep, just have to pull out the leads to your ground rod when you're ready. And then this sits in the, shut off the transmitter. This just sits in the sock there to help protect it so it doesn't rub up against the handle. And that's it. And I'll throw my card in there for customer service. Yeah, should be saved as your #1 locator in your Rolodex. All right.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
Have fun.